Well, welcome, friends, once again, this month's edition of The Shepherd's Voice, and we're happy to have you here with us today on this March day, and we want to welcome you to the program and turn it over to the host of the program, the Bishop of Trenton, Bishop David M. O'Connell. Welcome, Bishop. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Jim. Hello, everyone.
Good to have you here, and
good to be
the
here.
wind blew you in.
Windy as can be. It's today and tomorrow and last week, too.
Well, that's the old March, comes in like a lion, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully it'll go out like a lion.
Yeah, right.
Well, of course, on our minds and hearts these days is, of course, Pope Francis as he continues to struggle with his health. You know, as you look at now he's over 3 weeks in the hospital, I think. And
Yeah, today was 3 weeks today.
yeah.
Yeah.
Some days he's good, some days he's not. He seems to rally, and then he seems to have some struggles. You know, and of course you're never quite sure what the situation is there because you get different
Right.
messages and different reports. And I know today, or yesterday, he taped a message,
Yes.
and it was broadcast in St. Peter's Square because they're gathering in the evening, to say the rosary there for him, and so he gave a message. It was clear he was struggling to give that message.
Yeah.
You listen to it; it was struggle, I guess.
Yeah, like almost like out of breath at times.
Yeah, he was having a difficult time, but it was good to hear his voice, and the people are really in Rome very, very much concerned about him and praying for him every day. So it's a time, and at his age, 88, he's lived a good long life, and he's had a number of issues over the years, health issues. And
With his lung, right? Part of his one lung is missing.
he was a young man. He's
Yeah.
21, and they took part of his lung.
Yeah.
His right lung out, and I've noticed that over the years. Like he does seem to get winded a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You notice he never sings. You never see him singing any of the parts of the mass and other celebrants because it's just difficult for him to do that. So we hope and pray for him and hope for the best as he continues to shepherd the church, which he apparently is continuing to do. He meets with people every day.
He's still working.
He's still working, and you see so many people say, oh, well, maybe he'll resign. I don't think he will. I think he's pretty firmly convinced that the papacy is for the whole of your life. And so he teaches us in a way how to suffer.
Yeah.
And how to suffer in this time of year. I mean, it's a good lesson for us to learn.
Mm-hmm.
As
we all get older.
And we're all getting older, right? We were just talking about that. He looks very puffy.
I was going to say, is it medication?
I think it's probably steroids that he takes or medication that he takes.
Yeah.
Because even last year when I was there in Rome, he was, of course, wheelchair bound by then, but he did look like he had put on some weight.
Yeah.
He's gotten a little heavier. And I wonder if that's the medication or not.
I heard one commentator say because he's been in a wheelchair, he's not been walking or exercising at all.
Probably not.
But you still can control your diet. That looked to me more like it was a medication.
I think it's
game.
Yeah, I really think
Yeah.
it's medication. And he's in the hospital. He's getting good treatment in Gemelli. Gemelli is a very fine hospital, kind of outside of the Rome proper, the city of Rome.
Is that where you were?
No, where I went to the hospital is the Santo Spirito.
Down by the Tiber.
Yeah, it's right. It was right. I mean, when I had the heart attack, I just seen the Pope and come back to the hotel after lunch and had the heart attack. I was in the operating room in 10 minutes from the hotel to the hospital. It's right down the street. It's actually the oldest hospital in Europe.
Yeah. That's down by the river, down at the end of
It
the
is,
Via
right.
Conciliazione. Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it, but it's certainly, they say it's a very good heart hospital.
Oh,
so
okay.
It was kind of a good coincidence that I was able to be taken care of. I was there for about 8 days.
Yeah. And went back to see the Pope after that.
I went to see back to see the Pope, and he was aware of what had happened and put his hand on my chest and gave a big smile.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of prayers. Well, we
Good.
find ourselves here in the Lenten season has begun. It
Already,
started again, and
late, but it seemed like it came upon us pretty quickly. But still, it's late this year.
yeah, it is a little bit late, and Easter is later this year, and we always focus on, faith, hope, and charity during this time, and the trifecta of Lent,
Hmm.
prayer and fasting and almsgiving are the three things that we always put forward. We think about, of course, prayer is, to me, is the easy one because you can pray everywhere, anywhere, at
Hmm.
all times.
Hmm.
Um, and the fasting can be a little bit of a challenge. It's amazing when Lent occurs in March. I get a million requests for
Oh,
dispensations because of all the St. Patrick's Day parties and all this
yeah.
other stuff that they have on Friday. And
Hmm.
uh, I always circulate guidelines for people because you don't remember from year to year what the guidelines are. The days of
Hmm.
fast and abstinence. Fast really is one full meal, and abstinence, of course, no meat. And the days have been whittled down, so now the only days of fast and abstinence are Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. And on those 2 days, you can't be dispensed
Hmm.
from the requirements, But I mean, 2 days out of
Right.
40 is not such a bad.
Right. Well, that was an issue last year with Valentine's Day, wasn't it, on Ash Wednesday?
Yes, there
Yeah.
was. There
Hmm.
was an issue there, and I took a month leading up to it, constantly telling people, make your Valentine's Day plans earlier or later.
Yes.
Just be aware that no dispensation will be given. And I didn't get any pushback at
No.
all.
Yeah.
And maybe see some people just didn't even bother.
Hmm.
They just do what they do.
Yeah.
Um,
But I remember growing up and never eating meat on Fridays. That was when we were growing up.
well,
Before
of course,
Vatican
that's
II.
every Friday in
That-
those days,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Now it's no meat on Fridays throughout the season of Lent, and that's what the restriction is.
But clarify that for people because it doesn't mean go out and have a big lobster dinner either, right? I mean,
No, the point of it is a sacrifice.
Right.
That's the point of
Yeah.
it. And I remember one Friday when I was a seminarian and I was in a parish, and the pastor, we had the Good Friday service in the afternoon, and we had our supper. We went out for supper that night because we didn't have a cook. And it was a huge lobster, and I thought, oh my God, this is kind of missing the point, isn't it?
Mhm.
Of having,
Right.
of
Right.
having it. So
Yeah. There should be. I mean, it's not just give up meat and have whatever else you want as long as it's not meat.
Yeah. it's
There's a
be attentive
sacrifice.
to the
Yeah.
sacrifice.
Mhm.
That's it. And I
Mhm.
think people, if they give it some thought, will realize the importance of doing that.
Mhm.
The pastor of a parish, he has the authority to dispense an individual,
Mhm.
but he can't give a dispensation for a whole group or for his whole parish or for the Knights of Columbus or
Mhm.
for the ladies who work in that group dispensation has to come from the bishop. And
Mhm.
I get a number
Yeah.
of those. I've had a number of those already.
Mhm.
Those who are automatically dispensed from fast and abstinence, and we do have to say this every year, um, who are outside the age limits. The age limit is 14 to 59
Mhm.
for fast,
Mhm.
and everyone's obliged to abstinence. But, if people are sick, chronically ill, pregnant, there are other conditions that that require maybe to be more attentive to the kinds of food that you eat. But the church has always taught you should never jeopardize your health
Mhm.
by the obligation of fasting. It's a serious obligation.
I was going to ask: is there a pain of sin
Yeah,
involved if you
it is. It's a
intentionally?
serious obligation.
Mhm.
You know, it's something that the church asks us to consider carefully, simply because it. And I say this to people: you're asked to do this fasting 2 days in the course of almost 2 months.
Mhm.
That's a hardship.
Mm.
I don't understand it. It is an obligation to observe the laws of fast and abstinence are serious. Failure to observe one penitential day is not as serious as it is when you just say, "Oh, the heck with it, I'm not going to bother with it." Some people do that.
Yeah.
Too. They just. I always find it funny, in a strange sort of way, I guess, but going into a restaurant on a Friday of Lent, because I don't have a cook either, and I usually cook for myself
Right.
unless I'm traveling, and I'll stop at a diner
Mhm.
and you go to a fast food place, and I walk in a collar, and you could see the guilt on people's faces. They're eating a hamburger.
Yeah.
It's an important thing to.
It was a Catholic man, a manager of a McDonald's many years ago in the Midwest, who actually asked the company to come up with a fish sandwich on Fridays because he was losing business on Fridays. And that fillet of fish that they have, that's the result of a Catholic McDonald's manager
no kidding.
saying, "Can we do fish in some way? Because I lose business on Fridays in Lent."
I never liked fish. I don't eat fish. Still don't eat fish. And I think at one point I would eat tuna fish sandwich.
Yeah.
But I even stopped eating tuna fish. I just grew to dislike it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to someone one of the priests yesterday. I said, I don't know whether maybe at some point I got sick after eating tuna fish, but I just can't eat it.
Mm-hmm.
So in our family, I don't know how yours was. It was pizza,
Mm-hmm.
tomato pie.
Right,
Have,
right.
Because my father was not a fish eater.
Mm-hmm.
Mother was, and some
Yeah.
of my brothers. But so we had pancakes.
Yes.
It depends. I mean, my mother was
Right.
very creative.
Mm-hmm.
Mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Something like that
Yes.
on Fridays.
Yep. Because it was every Friday. It wasn't just during Lent.
Yeah, that
It
was
had to
true.
be creative every Friday.
Every Friday,
Yeah.
it was something. But we just took it for granted. It was an obligation, and we knew it was an obligation, and
Yes.
we didn't
Mhm.
skip over it.
Right.
We did. So anyway, that's Lent is here, and Lent brings with it, certain obligations for us. One of the things, and of course you remember, Jim, and probably many of our listeners remember when you were growing up, it was always, I'm going to give up candy, I'm
Mhm.
going to give up this or give
Mhm.
up that. And the emphasis shifted a little bit, not completely, but it did shift a little bit from rather than giving up, giving,
Mm-hmm.
rather than doing without doing.
Right.
And I say, well, it's not a either or, it's a both and. You combine them both.
Mhm.
Now, almsgiving is an important obligation that we have, and sometimes people they don't realize, who should I support? Where should where can I give alms?
Mhm.
To fulfill that obligation. And I put out every year. I put a little bit of a list of the charities in the Diocese of Trenton.
Mhm.
Of course, they're always my primary charities,
Right.
and my Catholic Charities of Diocese of Trenton Catholic Charities. They do a lot of good work.
Mm-hmm.
The El Centro, in these days when we're so focused on immigration, and they do wonderful service for people who are coming into this country,
Mhm.
people who have no place, nothing to themselves, and so they take good care of them. Rice Bowl, Catholic Relief Services does the Rice Bowl the parishes do every year, and we certainly promote and foster that. And although, in recent days, there's been a lot of criticism of Catholic Relief Services
Mhm.
and even some Catholic charities, organizations, because in the course of their work, they may somehow link up with other organizations that support things that may be contrary to church teaching.
Mhm.
And you have to be very careful. And I say this to people, rather than just abandoning these charities, which do such great work, make it clear when you make your donation that you don't want this money used for this or
Mhm.
anything that would contribute or work with organizations that are contrary to the church's teaching.
Yeah.
I mean, and I always make that very, very clear myself. So don't be too quick to just throw it all away. These organizations have for many years done good things, and they continue to do good things.
Mm-hmm.
That they are connected to organizations is unfortunate and is something that shouldn't be, but it is, unfortunately. I know I was talking with one of the Congress people about the current move away from these charities, and his comment to me was pretty telling. He says, "Well, Bishop, they're not innocent.
Mm.
There are some things that we have to be a little bit more careful about." So,
Yeah.
the Mount Carmel Guild, of course, here in Trenton, the Diocese of Trenton in Mercer County, they do wonderful work. And all of these, all you do is Google them
Mm-hmm.
and put it on, go online and find these organizations out, and they'll tell you what they do. And how they do it and how to donate if you want to contribute. Good Counsel Homes is another one here in our diocese and other places in New Jersey where they take care of unwed mothers, which is a labor of love and certainly a pro-life activity. Mercer County CYO, I always think taking care of the young and taking care of them in an environment that is truly Catholic is important. Of course, here in the diocese, we have the annual appeal, which serves so many ministries and all of that. And you can't forget domestic church radio, huh?
Oh, I was waiting for that, Bishop.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna leave you high and dry. The great work that's done by this radio station in terms of evangelization and taking care of the faith needs of people.
We always say, Bishop, for as long as and this is my 30th year really of doing Catholic radio.
Oh wow!
And I always say, especially to the pastors, you see your good people at the vigil on Saturday or Sundays, and some are able to come during the week, but most don't. And this is a great way to tie in the faith between Sundays, because you can continue the learning and the evangelization efforts through the stations. And we are.
Of course, you have so many programs. Your programming is so varied, and it touches so many aspects of our life of faith.
So we are having our annual Radiothon March 19th, 20th, and 21st. And, I'm kind of off the cuff here, but if you just give our folks a little pitch on how important it would be to support us. It's a critical Radiothon this year for us.
Oh, yes, very, very important. Things are not getting cheaper.
Right.
The expenses are up, and, of course, as we've said before, our listening audience is wonderfully generous to us, but we always need more.
Yeah.
And that's
our expenses have gone up just like everybody else's.
I know it. Yeah. It's amazing. So the Radiothon is 19th, begins on the Feast of St. Joseph.
And we put it under his patronage this year in a special way, 19th, 20th, and 21st. That's Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we don't preempt all the programming. We come kind of in and out, so the regular programming is still on. Yeah. But this year especially, Bishop, it's important to us because over the past 4 or 5 years, donations have dropped, expenses have gone up, and there's been a gap, and that gap is very wide right now. We can't afford to keep operating that way. So we need to let people know seriously that if they want their Catholic radio station, that they need to support us in any way they can, whatever within their means, but certainly support us in whatever way you can.
Yeah, it's important, and I wish you lots of luck with that. That's important evangelization service that you do provide, and I hope our people will be generous with you.
And I always say, Bishop, real quick before we pass on, that when people want to find out where their donation dollar goes, all they have to do is put on the radio. They always know. We don't have to wait for a quarterly newsletter. You just turn the radio on, and you'll hear where your donation dollar is going. It's going constantly to bring the Word of God and the gospel message out to potentially millions of souls. And now with our internet presence, we get correspondence from people around the world. We have a prayer request from Kenya and other parts of the world where people are listening to the station still. So
people do, they do listen. We have and you can't forget your parishes too.
Right.
It's important to support the parishes. Yesterday I went through kind of a review of some of our parishes that are struggling, and it just saddens me because I'm one of these guys who doesn't like to close anything. I like to try to support and build as possible, but some of our situations are, I would put them on the dire list. There are some places that 2-3 years from now I don't know where we're going to be with some of these places.
Right.
And so generosity is very important. Sacrifice is very important. Almsgiving is very important during this year, during this time of year anyway. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
As an aspect of our Lenten service. We have this coming Sunday, the rite of election, which is usually on the first Sunday of Lent, more often than not on the first Sunday of Lent, where all of the catechumens, those who are participating in the Order of the Christian Initiation of Adults, gather together we usually do it at the Co-Cathedral because it's larger, and representatives from all of the parishes of the diocese. We have 97 parishes, those who work in catechetics, those who are helping in the religious education of people as they are entering into the church, will gather together at the Co-Cathedral. It's not a mass; it's a service. It's the service of the Word. It's the liturgy of the words. It's taken from the Mass of the first Sunday of Lent, and it's usually in the presence of the bishop and the catechumens, those who are preparing for baptism. They're acknowledged by the church in a formal way as they're making themselves ready, preparing themselves to receive the sacraments of initiation, baptism, confirmation, or the Eucharist. Some of them just receive confirmation and they be baptized in other places. The rite of election usually takes place in the presence of the bishop or someone that I delegate. In the years that I've been here, in the 15 years, I've always been the presider at the rite of election. The catechumens are called by name. They come forward. They're recognized and affirmed as being ready at the stage of preparation. And their names are enrolled in what we call the Book of the Elect. And so we place the names there signifying that these people who are catechumens have been chosen by God and the church to proceed on to the sacraments. It's powerful. It's a meaningful step in the journey of faith for those who are entering the church, and we'll be celebrating that again at the Co-Cathedral this coming Sunday at 3 o'clock. Beautiful service. I'll give an instruction, a homily at the service, and then afterwards, all the different parishes will come forward, and they all gather around me, and they get a nice picture taken as a kind of a memorial of the day, a remembrance of the day. So it's a beautiful. I look forward to it every year because I look out at the congregation. I say, "Wow, this is our not only our future, but this is our present." And God bless the people who are doing it. And there are stages leading up to it that are each parish has a program that follows the order.
And do you find most of the individuals who come into the church are coming in because of marriage or just a sincere interest?
That certainly is one of the reasons, but I don't think it's the only reason.
I wonder how they find out about the church. How they.
There's so much of a presence on the media, and so much that's information that's accessible to people. A lot of people, it's just the good example of others, and they might ask questions, and all of a sudden find themselves that they're interested. Maybe some of them started out in a journey of faith, and for some reason or another it stopped or halted, and they've gotten themselves back. A lot of times, though, it's just through the good example and the conversation with other Catholics who.
So it shows the importance of our witness to
Very
others,
important.
and how important that is to not allow the culture to suppress our witness to our faith. And that's really what's happened over the past couple of decades. But the Vice President gave a beautiful talk at the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast about his journey to the faith and how it was somebody else's witness. He just found the Catholics he knew inspired him to really investigate more as to why they were the way they were. And he came to the church a few years ago. So
our own Congressman Chris Smith gave a presentation, gave a talk there. He was honored by the organizers of the prayer breakfast for the good work that he's done. And he's so with pro-life. I mean, you can't find a more pro-life person in government, in legislative branch of government, or any branch of government as Chris Smith and of course his wife Marie, and the two of them work so very hard. Human trafficking, traveling the world. He's just a great man, and I was so happy to see him be honored as he rightfully should be. So it was a good talk. Yeah, the vice president did give a very good, kind of a stirring talk. And I thought it was, he addressed a couple of things like the concern recently with the Pope and some of the criticism of the Pope. And I thought he did a good, sensitive, respectable job, And it's important to see people like the vice president, like Chris Smith and others who are in Congress or are working in the government, not afraid.
Exactly.
Not afraid to give witness to what they think and what they believe. So, yeah, it was great. It was a great thing. Well, we have on March the 16th, uh, the Mount Carmel Guild, which I mentioned earlier in the charities, the Mount Carmel Guild serves the poor and the needy and the sick in Mercer County. They're having their Founders Day Mass. They were founded over 100 years ago by the Bishop of Trenton, and they continue to do wonderful work in this area, in this region. And so they have every year a Founders Day Mass. They invite what they call the mission members, those who are particularly supportive or on the board, and others who are contributors or certainly people who are their prayer partners. They come together and they celebrate Mass. This year it's going to be on the 16th of March at 3 p.m. at St. Paul Church in Princeton. And so we'll have that opportunity to be together. I'll celebrate the Mass and preach at that Mass. But all are welcome. You know, the more people get to know what's going on, I think, in the Diocese of Trenton, and we have so many wonderful things, the better. St. Patrick's Day, of course, is coming up. The next day, 17th, we've already done some celebrations with that. Some of the towns have had their parades. I was down at St. Rose in Belmar for the installation of the Grand Marshal for I think it's the largest parade in New Jersey, and that was a wonderful occasion. This year, St. Patrick's Day is 17th is the birthday of the Bishop of Camden.
Oh, it
Bishop
is.
Dennis Sullivan. He turns 80 this year, and that's also the day that the Pope has indicated that he can retire. So I'm sure he's looking forward to that. He's a wonderful bishop and just a good man and a good friend. And his successor, Bishop Joseph Andrew Williams, will take over that day as the Bishop of Camden. He's 50 years old, young guy. He came from St. Paul, Minneapolis, where his family is. He comes to a large family. There's 9 children in his family.
Wow.
And when he arrived here, and they had a massive welcome for him, the family was there. His brother is a priest. He has a brother who has special needs and who spoke at the luncheon. It was just great, inspiring. And he's fluent in Spanish. His Spanish is excellent. In fact, I think he did some work in Hispanic ministry while in the Diocese of St. Paul, Archdiocese of St. Paul, Minneapolis. So he's revved up and raring to go, and he's going to take the helm and on the Feast of St. Patrick. That's wonderful. And I wish every blessing to Bishop Sullivan. Well done. Good servant of the Lord, and I hope he has good health and many more years of happiness as Bishop Emeritus. He's inspiring me for when the time comes. I'm jealous.
Well, you're turning 70 in April, right?
70 this year, the big 7-0.
Yeah, well, I'm there, but...
the day after Easter. Easter is on the 20th of April, and my birthday's on the 21st. And then I leave the next day. I'll go to Paris, because the order to which I belong, the Vincentians, Congregation of the Mission, that's a CM, but it stands for Congregation of the Mission. We're celebrating the 400th anniversary of the foundation of the Vincentian community. And so I was asked to come to join with the other Vincentian bishops in the world. There's not that many. There's 2 in the U.S., myself and the Bishop of Anchorage, Juneau, Alaska. He is a Vincentian. And so I indicated that I would come. And then I mentioned it to some of my priests, and they wanted to come with me. So I said, well, let's make it a pilgrimage. You know, everybody's going to Rome. I said, well, why don't we go to Notre Dame, celebrate Mass in Notre Dame, and spend some time in Paris? So that's what we're going to be doing that week after Easter, and looking forward to there. It's been a while since I've been in Paris, but we'll go to the Chapel of the Miraculous Medal, where the Blessed Mother appeared to Catherine Labouré, and celebrate Mass. And I've celebrated Mass there before, and where the pulpit is the actual spot where the Blessed Mother appeared. So when you're celebrating Mass there and you're standing in that place, I always feel overwhelmed. And they have the chair that the Blessed Mother sat on, and everything is right there. And people write their intentions, and they throw it up onto the chair so it will land on the chair of the seat. And it's always mobbed. It's always crowded, that church. And right near it is the Church of St. Vincent de Paul, where his body is is there exposed in glass above the altar. And then the mother house of the Vincentians, uh, Saint Lazare was the name of it, Saint Lazarus, Lazare.
Okay.
And that's where the Vincentians, many places are called Lazarists,
I see.
named after that
Right.
building. So we celebrate the 400 years of our
Okay. Wonderful.
community. And
How many priests do you have going with you?
I think there's 20.
Oh, wow,
Maybe
okay.
20, maybe a little
Good group.
more.
Mhm.
Yeah, last year we went to Rome in January, and there was about 30 of us who
Mhm.
went. And then now there's 20,
Mhm.
20 or so going, and
Good.
great opportunity for
Oh,
them.
sure.
You know, some of the fellows have never been out of the country,
Yeah,
so this
yeah.
is a great occasion for
Great.
them. St. Joseph's Day on the 19th, when we start our telethon for
Yeah, that's right. To help support this
keep plugging away at that.
St. Joseph, pray
St.
for us.
Joseph,
Yeah,
pray for us.
yeah.
Right, you know, but
That's a feast day. Can we break our fast that day?
it's a feast day. Is
St.
it?
Joseph feast of St.
It's not a Friday though, is it?
Oh, that's true. Well, I mean, if you gave something up for Lent, you can break that. I mean, I don't
Oh,
mean
yeah,
fast.
yeah.
I mean you're.
Well, you always can break it. I mean, that's
Well, no,
it's a
you can't.
personal. That's a personal decision. But you know, that's the day. And you're Italian,
I am Italian.
so you know that they have the St. Joseph's table,
That's right.
and they have all the cannoli and
That's
all the
right.
good food.
That's right.
Zeppelis. and
Zeppeli. That's right.
Beautiful day, and
Yes.
so I'll be going down to Joe's Delicatessen down in Spring Lake.
Oh, okay.
Joe's a wonderful guy and a good friend, and
Okay.
he puts a nice spread out for the St. Joe's.
Oh,
So I'll
he
go down in the
does.
morning. Go down at 9
Oh,
o'clock,
Uh-huh.
and then at 10:30 I'll head over to St. Rose because we're honoring the sisters who taught in the schools there
Okay.
on the feast. I mean, the Sisters of St. Joseph were among the religious orders that served there.
Right.
So we'll have a big mass with both schools, the grammar school and the high school together.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't done that for a while, so that should be great. So we'll celebrate the Feast of St. Joseph in high style.
Hey, good for
That-
you.
And-
I'll be begging for money.
Yeah, you'll be begging for money. Maybe I'll bring you a cannoli back.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah, you stop with that daily. Bring some sweets up here. For we work hard, long days. Those are
I know,
radiothon
I know.
days.
And we have also this month, toward the end of the month, on the 29th, the Diocese of Trenton's having their Jubilee Catechetical
Mm-hmm.
Parish Ministry Conference.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be up in Homedale at the high school there, St. John Vianney High School, and it's a full day, 8 o'clock till 3 o'clock. And it's wonderful. There's speakers. I'll celebrate Mass at 11:15 that day, and I have an opportunity really to focus on our work of evangelization, both those who teach or catechize and also those who serve in parish ministry.
Mhm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's a wonderful opportunity. And then the 1st of April 1st, is going to be the Jubilee Blue Mass.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have that. We traditionally have the Blue Mass every year. We'll have it over at the Co-Cathedral.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always a wonderful occasion, really, to thank those who have served, to pray for those who've given up their lives in
Mhm.
service to law enforcement, and just to be together with the folks. So that'll be a very, very nice occasion.
Mm-hmm. I think I got word from our friend Father Butler that there's a Gaelic language mass at his parish coming up on, I believe, the 23rd. Is there Father Sullivan who's going to be saying, or Dennis? No, not Dennis Sullivan. But anyway, he mentioned to me. I told him to put it on the bulletin board. So
Yeah,
check the bulletin board.
I don't know about
Yeah.
that.
A Gaelic language mass.
Yeah, well, you know, we have had it in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Monsignor Michael Walsh. and
I
so
believe
on.
so. Yeah,
Is he the one?
I believe so. I have to check his email. Father emailed me a couple days ago.
Oh wow,
But that sounds like a nice,
nice. occasion.
interesting around St. I think it's the 23rd of March, but around St. Patrick's Day.
Will it be all in Gaelic? I can't imagine.
I'm not quite sure. It just says Gaelic language mass, Father Butler. So I think he's had it before, if not
Has
every
he?
year. But he did tell me that. I'm going to look real quick because it's, let's see. I don't have it. But anyway, I told him to put it on our community bulletin board to post it.
On the radio.
Yes, go to our website. I'm sure probably tell the diocese too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything so far.
Okay. I said he should have an Italian St. Joseph's garlic language mass.
You should. That would be good. I'd go to that one. I like the Italian food better than the Irish food, but
So a lot of things happening. I mean, it's a wonderful, this time of year as we were, Cheryl, this is her busy time. I'll probably see her
oh
again
yeah,
Easter night. I'll see. But there's with the new penance services and parish missions, there's so many opportunities for people to go and really get into
really is
practice
a
their
great,
faith. Get away from the TV and all the
and the cell
routine.
phone.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
you know the a lot. You mentioned the penance service. There's a lot of penance services. They happen in Advent and Lent
Hmm.
primarily,
Yeah.
and sometimes people get the impression that those are the only 2 times a year you can go to confession,
Hmm.
and you really should be conscious of confession frequently during the course of the year. But those 2 seasons, Advent and Lent, provide a special opportunity to focus on, our own sinfulness, our own weakness, and the need to improve, to
Hmm.
be better, to ask God's mercy and forgiveness, and to extend it to others,
Yes.
not just to
Yes.
ourselves, but to extend it.
I did find I don't want to shortchange our good friend Father Butler, but there is a Sunday Mass of St. Patrick in the Gaelic language at St. Michael's on Sunday, March 23rd at 11 a.m.
Okay.
Father Dan Cahill.
Oh yeah, your father is retired
Okay.
and lives here in Lawrenceville at our priest villa, and he's like many of our retired priests, very active,
Mhm.
especially in the area. He
Mm-hmm.
helps out at a number of the parishes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So that's
wonderful.
Sunday, March 23rd, 11 a.m.
I'll mention it to Ray and Bennett at
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
communications office
Mhm.
and see if anything has been mentioned to her. Sometimes, we forget
Right.
to say something, and then the word doesn't get
Right.
around.
And I know Father Butler's a faithful listener, so I don't. I want to make
Father
sure.
Butler, are you listening?
He listens. He's a real wonderful. He comes here and says mass for us and everything. It's just beautiful, wonderful work for us here. So
Father Butler is everywhere.
yes, I know.
We always kid about him, and say, "Well, we'll see Father Butler, and he'll be there." But that's great. He's a wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful, good priest, good
Mhm.
pastor of his parish
Mhm.
down there.
Is he going to Paris with you, to France?
He always says he's going to go, but he never does. So
Okay.
for our pilgrimages,
Get away, Father. You can go. Go on.
yeah, you can
Get
go.
away from the church for a while.
That's
Parish.
why I gave you a parochial vicar.
That's right. There you go.
A parochial vicar there, Father Carlos Casilla, he is the chaplain at Monmouth University, the Catholic chaplain there.
Yeah.
And so he arranged the beautiful Mass. We had over 400 people
For ashes?
for Ash
Oh,
Wednesday
wow.
Mass from the university. Young
Well, it's
people.
interesting, though, because I remember one time many years ago hearing Father Groeschel when he would teach on his program that, I mean, so many non-Catholics would go to St. Patrick's even for ashes, just for the sake of
Yeah,
going.
people do.
People would go, and I mean, even people who were not Catholic would go and feel the obligation to go.
Most of these students, I think, were Catholic. But this
Yeah.
was a Mass. It
Yeah.
wasn't just a Ash service, but it was a Mass. We gave ashes. And the president of the university, President Leahy, came to the Mass. I was so happy to see him and joined with the students there. But it's amazing when you're celebrant of a Mass and you look at and you see 400 young people
I would imagine.
on that rainy day. It was a terrible weather day, who came out to participate.
Yeah,
And so great. And talking to them afterwards, I was happy. We've had some vocations come out of Monmouth University.
good,
Some
good.
of our priests. In fact, the vocation director of the diocese, Father Chris Calavito, has a degree from Monmouth
Oh, he does. All right.
University. So,
Very good.
and we have one student there who is applying for the seminary and will join us in the spring or in the fall of next year. So it's great. It's just, of course, spending my whole life in education at the various levels. I always find it a joy to be with young people, and of course, college age people. Well, I spent the last many years of my life at St. John's University and Catholic University as president. So it was just great to be with them. Then I drove back in that terrible rain
Yeah, it was
from
very-
Monmouth to the College of New Jersey,
Okay.
and I celebrated Mass there. And the kids,
Same thing.
same thing. Place was packed, standing room only,
Wonderful.
and they're actually standing in line going out the door.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's great.
it was great to talk to the kids, and
And while we're plugging Catholic education, I mentioned to you before we went on the air that this past Sunday, Cheryl and I went over here to Notre Dame High School for their production of Les Miserables. And what a wonderful job these young kids did. And that school, I'm so impressed. And I know we have other, not shortchanging anybody else.
No,
but,
no,
but
no, no.
Because we've been involved with Notre Dame here in Lawrenceville.
And you've given concerts there yourself.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful theater. But these kids did such a great job. And even the kids who were seating us, there's just they should be very proud of themselves over there at the high school.
Oh, it's a wonderful school. It's a great school and a great administration, great faculty there.
Yes.
And the kids are, of course, the chancery is right in front of the school.
Yes, I know,
on 206. And so I can look out my window many times and see the kids outside and the buses.
Yes.
Like everybody, we're stuck on 206 there. And those buses are get moving. But it is a wonderful school, and I certainly encourage Catholic education. Of course, I'm the chair of the Bishops' Committee on Catholic Education.
Yes.
I was elected a year or so ago. And I've spent my whole life in Catholic education, so it's something I know a little bit about over the years. And next week I'll be in Washington for the whole week for meetings of the administrative board of the Conference of Bishops. When you're a committee chairman, you are automatically on the administrative board of the Bishops' Conference.
Okay.
So we'll have meetings there Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. I got the agenda and the documents. I mean, there's hundreds of pages of these documents. And I wonder if anybody actually reads all this stuff. So we'll have those meetings, and then Tuesday afternoon will be the installation of the new Archbishop of Washington, and that will Bishop Robert McElroy, Cardinal Robert McElroy. He's the cardinal coming from San Diego here to Washington D.C. And he and I were we call it the baby bishop school.
Oh, okay.
When you're made a bishop, the following September you have to go to Rome for 2 weeks to kind of go through the ropes of being a bishop. And so he and I were in that class period, so I got to know him there. He's a brilliant man and a great sense of humor, just a good person. So I hope he does well in Washington. It's not an easy area to be the bishop. So he'll take over Tuesday.
No, he already is a cardinal. Was made a cardinal.
Oh yeah, he was a cardinal. He's kind of a surprise, the Archbishop of Los Angeles, which is the largest diocese in the country, is not a cardinal. But the Pope made the Bishop of San Diego a cardinal. And, no one could figure out that. But of course, the Pope Pope Francis has been doing that. He's been naming cardinals in places that didn't traditionally have a cardinal. He uses that expression, go out to the peripheries. Well, I don't know that I'd consider San Diego periphery, or pretty nice periphery as far as I can see, but he was made a cardinal, and then he'll come.
Philadelphia didn't have been a cardinal since Cardinal Regali, right? With Archbishop Chaput was never been a cardinal.
Archbishop Chaput wasn't.
Perez has been there for a while.
I was surprised for that.
Yeah.
And Perez is, of course, they're good men. All of them are good men, and
but that traditionally was a cardinal.
You don't have to be a cardinal, but it's tradition.
Yeah.
Has been, and so the expectation is there. And I always feel bad for some of these bishops, that the expectation is there. They're not going to be a. I was at a this past summer down in, speaking of Joe's Delicatessen, Joe has this Italian men's night in the summer. So I went to that.
Okay, Joe, invite me over because I'm hungry.
He's Italian. I'll extend the invitation. And so we had a great, but as I was leaving, one of the guys who was attending it goes, "How come you're not a cardinal?" He says to me, and I said, "Well, why would I be a cardinal?" I said, "There's no tradition for that, and we already have a cardinal in New Jersey and in Newark, which we never had before." Again, there's another example.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, there was never a cardinal in Newark. So Cardinal Tobin is there and serving well. But I just thought it was funny, and I didn't know what to say to him other than, well, why am I not a cardinal? I said, I'm too old. But anyway, that was...
Is there no limit to the number of cardinals. Would there be? But
No,
there's the
there's
electorate,
right
though, right?
now there's 138
Mm-hmm.
cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
There's over 200 cardinals, but there's 138 who are eligible to elect.
Right.
So you have to be under 80.
Under 80.
Once
okay.
you turn 80, you're no longer eligible to elect.
Mhm.
Well, you'll always be a cardinal, and you'll always be part of the College of Cardinals. But
Right. But those who will pick the next pope.
will be the 138 cardinals who are under 80.
Mm-hmm.
So we have here in the U.S. A couple, and there are some Americans who are cardinals serving over in Rome at the Vatican.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's the title. Cardinal's an honorific title. I mean,
And isn't that the purpose of a cardinal?
the purpose of cardinal is to advise the Pope and to elect the successor.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the main things.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a cardinal like in a region like this, where the cardinal is also the archbishop, he's what's called the metropolitan. He's the main bishop in the region.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the Diocese of Trenton, which is the capital diocese. Then we have Newark, which is the metropolitan diocese, archdiocese, and Patterson, and Metuchen, and Camden. So we have 5 dioceses in the country, in the state of New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
We gather periodically for meetings, I think 4 times a year. One of our responsibilities as a group, and it's the New Jersey Catholic Conference,
Mm-hmm.
and the bishops are the executives for that, is really to supply names to the papal nuncio for possible bishops.
Mm.
You know, and I had dinner with him a couple weeks ago, and he said, "Do you have any names for me?" And I said, "Oh, I have a lot of names for you." I said, "I've sent them to you before. You haven't taken any of them." He said, "Well, send them again. Send them again." Because being a bishop today is not what it was, when we were growing up, and it's tough. I'm not saying that for any sympathy, seeking any sympathy. It's any job where leadership where you're in charge of groups of people is difficult these days. But he's something like 40% of those priests who are asked to be bishops turn it down.
Mm.
That's a lot.
I think because I see what I see in the church, the change is that people in this country look to the church as a democracy. They're so used to electing, I want to choose my representatives, and I have a say.
Oh,
in the
you hear that
government,
all the time,
right? And they don't realize the church doesn't operate like that.
Yeah, some parts.
But they're not choosing their own bishop or their own
Right,
pope
right.
or their own pastor.
They're not like in the earliest days of the church, when
Mhm.
it's the unanimous vote or the vote of the population
Mm-hmm.
who would be the bishop. That changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, how is a bishop elected? Well, there are priests. You have to be a priest to be a bishop, of course. And everybody has a pastor in their parishes. So the priests are those who are really good administrators and good spiritual men. And they rise to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
People become aware of them. And every couple of years, canon law requires that the metropolitan archbishop circulate among the other bishops of the region a request for nominations for the office of bishop. And so I think we'll do it this coming May. So we'll bring a couple of names from our priests of our diocese, or other priests that they don't have to be from our diocese, people we're aware of. And we'll send those names to the nuncio. He's the Vatican and Pope's representative. And then his office will circulate in the area a questionnaire seeking, Jim Manfredonia has been named to, what do you think? And you have like an 8-page questionnaire asking you all kinds of questions about. And then people write back. And it's not just priests who are consulted, it's priests and lay people. They just, many, the consultation is very large. And then you send that back to the nuncio, and then he gleans from them who could be possible. Sometimes they'll, a name will be presented, but there might be something in the person's past that would prevent them from going forward, or when they're asked, they say they turn it down. They're not interested in that. They like being a parish priest or a pastor.
I think one thing people don't realize either, as I understand it, is that the Pope does not have to be a priest. Was that?
To be elected.
I'm sorry.
To be elected Pope,
To be elected Pope,
you have to be baptized Catholic,
Catholic.
male,
Hmm.
baptized Catholic. But you can't take over as Pope until you're ordained a priest and a bishop.
Mhm.
So
I wonder why that. I mean, you can't. Can you do that with any either as a priest or is that the
Uh,
same policy? I mean,
no,
it sounds.
I think it just comes up because canon law says you have to be
Mhm. Baptized Catholic
baptized
male. Hmm.
Um,
So then you have to go through.
and at times like this, when there's question about transition,
Right.
who would maybe take over,
Mhm.
that's when that's
Never
brought-
it would never happen in our time.
I don't think so. I don't think so. And it's usually certainly has been for a long time tradition that it's one of the college of cardinals who's
Hmm. Right.
promoted to elected
Mhm.
as pope, and that's been the custom.
Yeah.
I'm not a church historian, so I can't say that with any authority that
Right.
it's never happened.
Right.
But I'm not aware of it offhand.
Yeah.
And, like this movie that's out now, The Conclave, which gives you kind of a
I
kind
didn't
of
see it.
a view. Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw it.
Did you?
Gives you kind of a view. It's like it's a movie. People take that too seriously.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the gospel. It's a movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Fiction.
don't get all worked up about it.
Mhm.
It's a
Mhm.
story. Anyway, you get a kind of a good glimpse as to how some of the dynamics that go
Mhm.
into play there. And
Mm-hmm.
I think they exaggerated some of them, but
Right.
the Cardinals generally are the ones from whom a person is elected.
I know when we were in Rome in 2013, we actually attended the conclave mass, and it was.
Oh, for Pope Francis.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we were there, and actually we were there right behind the Cardinals where they were sitting. But during the liturgy, I've never felt such a presence of spirituality. What's the Mass of the Holy Spirit,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
and it was just
Who
almost
said the
overwhelming.
Mass? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but all I remember is we were there, and we were the first ones in the basilica after the Cardinals, right behind them, and it was just a beauty. I've never experienced anything like that, where it's just an overpowering and overwhelming presence of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Those
and-
masses are always impressive,
Mm,
not only for the conclave, but when you're there and there's a feast day or celebration.
hmm
It's always a beautiful
Yeah.
occasion, and you see so many great people, men and women from all over the world,
Yeah,
priests from all over the world,
Yeah.
religious from all over
I
the
know.
world. It's great. I had arranged we had a couple pilgrimages going from the diocese during this last couple of weeks,
Mhm.
and I had made arrangements for the pilgrimages to get audience tickets for
Oh, you did?
the full audience and have
Mhm.
some little
yeah,
special seating, but
Yeah.
didn't work out for them.
no, no.
I said,
And
"Well,
that too, we've been to many general audiences, and
yeah, they're always impressive.
yeah, they are, and I was always impressed with Pope Francis when we attended his, because once he concluded his teaching, his message, instead of going over to the Cardinals, he'd go down the stairs and greet the people, the handicapped
front
friends
row.
in the front
In the
row,
front row.
and he almost got not ignored them. He eventually came up to them, but the first thing was to go down to the people.
Yeah, he was a very. It's always interesting because as a bishop, when you're a bishop in Rome,
Mm-hmm.
you have access to a lot of things that you wouldn't ordinarily have access to, and those who are with you benefit from that.
Mm-hmm.
So I had made arrangements for last year when I had the pilgrimage of the priests in Rome, and we were sitting in the very front row.
Mm-hmm.
And after the audience, and I was sitting up, as a bishop, you sit up next
Right.
to the Pope up in the stage. So, I mentioned it, the Pro-Knight pointed out where my priest was sitting. And the guy who was in charge of
Mm-hmm.
the audience came down and brought all of my priests up on the stage.
Oh, neat.
And then the Pope came over and shook everybody's hand.
Beautiful.
There was a picture taken with them. So it was a thrill for them.
Well, we'll keep him in prayer. Unfortunately, we're out of time, Bishop, but thank you for coming by and sharing all
okay.
this good news with our listeners, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in April. Still be Lent at that time. So
Yeah, still be Lent.
That's
Yeah,
right.
and Easter is April 20. So God bless everyone. Have a blessed Lent. Say a prayer for me.
Thank you.